Hello and welcome to the Comedy Club podcast, recorded here at the Comedy Club of Kansas City. Please subscribe, hit that button right there, subscribe, follow us online, and follow us across social media simply at The Comedy Club KC and our website at thecomedyclubkc.com. I'm here today. He stopped in. We were lucky to have him for one night, count it, one night only.
Wednesday.
On a Wednesday. Hey, man, what a great night for comedy, though. Mr. Sam Miller.
That's cool. Thanks for having me.
Man, thanks
for having me at your club. Thanks for having me just in general. I'm going to take this thing out even. How about that?
You're just going to hold it. Whatever you want to do.
Weird?
I mean, whatever you want to do.
I like this better. Nice, actually.
Yeah. Well, here, let's... yeah, go ahead and unhook it. Get comfortable with it.
Hell yeah. Let's go. Get out of here, dinosaur. It kind of looks like a dinosaur, doesn't it? That's why they pay me the big bucks, is insights like that.
No, I'm glad this worked out. You're in Tulsa tomorrow.
Yeah.
I was talking to the owner of the Looney Bin down there. He spoke very highly of you, that you were coming.
Yeah.
Checked you out online, and I loved it, dude. Reached out.
Yeah, Mason's been really cool there at the Looney Bin. That's a club. He gave me, I did a Tuesday and a Wednesday there, and had a pretty good night on Wednesday. The Tuesday was kind of rough, but that's just what it is, you know. Live and learn. You
have, like, when I first saw you, is you have an act that, unquestionably funny, undeniably, and a good following, but you have an act, and you're just a person. Even on stage, when you watch you can tell that you're somebody people can do and will believe in.
Yeah. Dude, my fan base is like growing or whatever, but man, I got some passionate like people, and that rules. And I feel it too when I'm up there. Like the people that come out to my shows, the people that watch me and online, I feel it too. It's cool.
You're also off stage and on. You walk in the doors the same person you walk onto stage as. And you are just one of the friendliest people. like
Thank you. Yeah.
And it's funny because like you're how tall?
6'6".
6'6".
Or 5'18". I'm glad you laughed at that.
That was a math joke?
Yeah, math joke. Let's go.
Or a construction joke, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
But you just come off as this gentle giant. Like when you were holding, to put it into perspective for the audience, when you were on stage, you were holding a soda can, right?
Yeah.
This is me holding, and this is him. So I say this is the same size can. Show that to the cameras. Yeah. Like, and I had to say to Ethan, from the back of the room, I go, "Is that a normal can of soda?" He goes,
large individual, man.
He goes, "That's a regular can of soda." Sorry, ladies, he is married.
Oh yeah, you don't want. I think a lot of there is some. I've been hit on by some ladies, but I think the idea of being in a relationship with me is a lot different than the reality of being in a relationship with me. And I got one very patient wife, and I'm gonna stick with that.
And here comes the semi truck.
Yeah, hell yeah, that joke, man. God, I riffed that joke one night, and that joke changed my career. That's all true. All that stuff with the views. I don't know. You probably saw that part. I tell a joke about me pretending to be a semi truck having sex with my wife. And that's the first joke that went viral. And when I say it changed my career, that's the truth. Like everything kind of switched up after that. I think more than anything, even more than like a fan base, it kind of made me believe in me that maybe I could play like, because I was already doing well on stage, but it made me feel like maybe I had a chance at doing the young man's game and try to start working on my social media more, you know.
Have you always been this friendly?
Well, I'll be honest with you, like when I was getting high, so I've been sober 16 years, and when I was getting high, this friendliness was kind of a scam to a point.
Right.
But I've always wanted people to like me, and I want to be liked, and I want to like people. I love forming relationships with people, because when you're like on the edge of whether it's living outside or whatever, like for me, if somebody doesn't want me around, that might mean I'm sleeping outside. So like I gotta like this, all of my humor, it comes from like this place of like almost like survival, you know? Like this is, I always tell folks like I didn't want to be funny, like I kind of had to be funny. And I was funny before I did comedy, and if I stopped doing comedy, I'd still be funny, because humor is everything. Because you can lose everything else, and so like I take this shit pretty serious. And it's funny because now it's like now I do comedy and it's my job, and like I craft jokes, and that's the thing I had to figure out. I know it's crazy. Like the first open mic, dude, I did pretty good, man. I told a story about I shut the tip of my dick in a silverware drawer one time when I was high making a cup of noodle, and it hurt so bad it made me pass out.
Ramen noodles?
Yeah. I was wearing boxers, and I got like, my dick hangs kind of weird.
Wait, yours hangs?
Weird.
No, I'm kidding.
No. what is yours?
I'm totally kidding.
I apologize. But yeah, I don't know, man, like the friendly stuff. And sometimes I'm self-conscious about it because I worry that people think that I'm not being like genuine or something, but really like I'm just so happy to be here. Like I never thought that I never thought that this comedy shit would take me this far. I've never had like a strategy. All I've had is like this drive because like I am addicted to stand-up comedy and I just want to do it as much as I can.
How long have you been doing comedy?
10 years. So I started in 2014.
And you had 6 years sober going into that.
Yeah, good math on your part. Yeah. I actually got started because people in recovery told me that I should. Like, I'm part of a support group and whatnot, and people in that support group were like, you should do comedy. And I was like, I'm a dishwasher. I got a good thing going. And then, dude.
They're going to need me. They're going to need me at the steakhouse Saturday.
I didn't mean, and I was actually thinking about this yesterday, is like, I wasn't watching a lot of stand-up. Like what I saw was probably like some Comedy Central specials and stuff like that and some Comic View here and there. I think my biggest influence were like sketch comics. Like I liked Mr. Show a lot. And also I think a lot of my influence were like professional wrestlers. I love that idea of like playing with the ideas around like villains and
with your size.
Yeah.
Was that like a childhood dream or like through your life where you like, I want to do this?
If you would have asked me when I was 25, when I got sober, where I'd be in 10 years, whether I'd be a professional wrestler or a comedian, I probably would say I'd probably more likely to be a professional wrestler. I'm fairly athletic too for a large guy. I'm good at sports. I'm good at basketball.
Are you a fan of professional wrestling?
Not so much anymore. Still a little bit though. Like it's complicated.
Because
like I have a hard time. I have a hard time watching anything.
So you're married. You can admit to being a fan of professional wrestling now.
Yeah.
It's harder when you're single.
I know,
because they're like, "Oh, you like professional wrestling,
man." There's a lot of
No, but I went to WrestleMania. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's been thousands of dollars.
Yeah, there's a lot of deal breakers that a woman would have to get through before professional wrestling would even be on the radar. I don't think I've ever told this story on a podcast, but one of the first nights, my wife. So I was living on this dude's porch couch, and then I moved inside. I got a house. Yeah.
Was it at least like a fenced-in porch?
No, but it was the summer, so it wasn't that bad. Okay. Yeah. Well, I heard that joke. I don't know if you heard me do that joke tonight. I got this joke I talk about. I was like, yeah, I was living on a porch couch, and I was sober, and people would be like, Sam, you got a house yet? And I'd be like, almost. But eventually I stayed in my friend Luke. He rented me a room in his house, and I was so excited because I could invite her over. And I'd never invited her over because I didn't tell her that I was living on like porch couch and like living on other couches and sometimes sleeping in my car. Anyway, I invite her over and we hooked up, and she was like snooping like a little bit, nothing crazy. But like there was this paper bag in my closet, and she went in there, and it was just full of like really like sketchy knives, not like fun or useful knives, but just like sketchy ones. And she asked me, she was like, where's this bag of knives come from? And like, I kind of have figured it out now, but at the time, like I had no idea.
Were you sober at this time?
Yeah.
You had just gotten sober.
I was probably sober 5 or 6 months.
Okay.
So here's a weird thing.
Just got off the porch couch.
Yeah. So I don't remember too much of my first 2 or 3 years sober. And the things that I remember, unfortunately, about my last, when I was getting high, was mostly like incarceration and stuff like that, because I was sober when I was incarcerated for the most part, but there's flashes. And I remember the Forest Service because I was usually sober then. But I think like my first couple years sober, like I don't really remember it that much because I think it was just like, just this emotional like storm, like having feelings. Because I remember my dad died when I was 12, and I started getting high, and I just never looked back. And then like I get sober, and I'm like 25.
At 12.
Yeah, I started getting high when I was 12.
What did you start with?
It was like huffing gas and stuff.
Jesus.
Yeah. I know, it's not good. Yeah. You know what's funny is I used to tell people that I huff glue because I thought that sounded better. And I was like, how pathetic is it when the lie is glue? You know, like, I'm not one of those shitty gas huffers.
You're very open about this, though. You talk about it on stage. You've talked about it, in your special. So
I think that some of that is me like letting people know if they see me acting strange. Like I think it hopefully allows me to have like a little bit more leeway.
Is it okay?
I know that sounds strange, but like I feel like sometimes my mannerisms and sometimes the way I deal with people, like I still struggle with like low self-esteem and stuff like that, and sometimes that'll infiltrate my relationships, and that hasn't helped me in the comedy business. I have a hard time advocating for myself sometimes.
Do you think being that verbal with your peers and fans about your past helps you to stay accountable?
To a point, yeah.
Like maybe people will look out for you a little bit, maybe not offer you, try to put you in that position.
I think a cool thing about it is I think it frees up some people, and maybe they're not going to be verbal about it as I am, but maybe they know that they're not alone in those feelings. Like I felt like I was a bad person. I was always going to be a bad person because I did some really bad shit. I did do bad stuff. I did bad stuff, but I'm not a bad guy, and my friends weren't bad guys either. Like I think we talk about the world and morality in these really stupid terms, like, oh, he's good or he's bad or evil and good, you know? And really, a lot of it's like, is that person sick? Is that person well? Is that person desperate, or are they well taken care of? Like, the shit that turned me into a person that I was ashamed of, it was 1,000 small decisions. And then when I got sober and like where I am now, it's 1,000 small decisions the other way. And like, I still make bad decisions.
Do you judge the person you are today based off the actions of your past?
Sometimes.
It's hard to let go.
Yeah, sometimes. And I think about like how much good I've put in the world versus how much I've taken from the world. And I don't know where that line is. And it doesn't really matter though, because it feels really good to be a good guy. Like I love being a good guy. And I like that my fans I like that people see my clips online. Like I didn't start doing comedy for people to be like, feel like seen or like validated. But dude, when I had some guy message me from Alabama, and he's like, I work concrete. I got sober with this gal. She relapsed and overdosed, and now I'm raising this 4-year-old daughter on my own. And he told me that my jokes make him feel better, and that after a hard day, he'll watch clips of mine online. And like I said, I didn't start doing comedy for that, but there's no going back. Like that shit's amazing. Like I'm really, really I'm really proud of that. And to write jokes like that and to write genuine jokes like that, I have to like live my life to a certain set of standards, and I have to take good care of myself off stage. Like I have to have the therapist. I got to keep doing my support group stuff. Radical accountability. You know, that's how I try to live.
I think probably everybody gets into comedy for selfish reasons.
Oh yeah.
But once you're in it and you are able to make people not just laugh, but to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And when they share those feelings with you, how you've helped them.
Yeah.
And how you've maybe changed their perspective. It really does kind of open things up to you. Like I am doing, you feel like you're doing more. Mm-hmm. You know, you I had a even on a weird level, like I had a lady come up to me she said, I'm just going to be honest, my daughter was going to marry an Israeli man, and I was very uncomfortable with it. But after seeing your act, I feel much better, which I'm still a little torn about.
Yeah.
But
because you don't want to represent. See, I didn't even know you were Jewish. You don't want to represent all Jewish folks. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Yeah.
But,
I know that feeling.
But if stand-up comedy can help, not just. If it can help unite, I guess, if it can help make people feel better, if it can help bring people together, erase color, because comedy doesn't care what you look like. Comedy doesn't care if you're fat or thin or white or black, or comedy doesn't care who you sleep with. It does. All comedy cares about is if you're funny.
Yeah.
It does, and so if you can maybe erase some of those boundaries with laughter, and then on your end touch people and make them realize that they're not alone.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing.
I love it. I don't just, to your point, I don't just love it when folks that are in recovery, or maybe folks that are still actively using whatever substances. I got a lot of love for everybody. You know, maybe a person who's making, any sort of person who's trying to make healthier choices. I love that I can have that connection with them. But I also love it when maybe it's somebody who doesn't struggle with addiction. Maybe they don't understand that. And that maybe they'll be more patient with somebody and maybe be a little bit more compassionate to like somebody who's living outside or something like that. You know, maybe it humanizes it. And, you know, I got to make sure that I'm honest with that, you know, like, cause any sort of like deviation from that honesty, will cause harm. So like it's important that I don't make fun of other people that are living outside or people that are currently in that lifestyle. As opposed, like, I got to make sure that I'm being honest about my experiences. And if I do that, and if I do it right, I don't have nobody complaining. So, yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy about it.
I'm glad that you're able to be so honest on stage, especially because I think that's really when you're completely honest and open with yourself. That's when you're able to cross that line. They go from and they add the feelings to the laughter, and that's really what helps push the laughs to the next level.
Yeah, you got to, man. You got to form that connection with that crowd. I wish newer comics would lean into that a little bit more. I think a lot of people think taking risks on stage means like saying like the words you're not supposed to say, but really like talking about fear, man. Like that's what it is. Like I'm obsessed with fear, like the things that I'm scared of, and like I think that's what unites people. We're all scared, you know. It's scary to be a human being, and like if I can go up there and like playing with those ideas, like yo, like I'm scared too. Do you know what what I
Outside
mean?
of comedy, what are some of your basic fears?
I'm scared that biggest one is that I'm not going to be a good enough dad to my kids. Like that's it. Like that's the big one now.
How old are your kids?
They're 14 and 11.
Okay, I have 9 and 10.
Oh yeah, my kids are doing good though.
Yeah.
Yeah, my kids are doing
You're
good.
probably
They
a
go on
good
road with
dad.
me. I am sometimes, most of the time.
Yeah.
They love me, but they listen to me too. They're scared of me, but not in like the way I was scared of my dad. So my dad was scary.
It's just like more respect.
Yeah. Like,
Because when you're this nice, I mean, I imagine even if it's not legitimate anger, like you probably have a dad.
Oh,
your dad
dude.
voice is probably on point.
I can get pretty scary pretty quick when I'm mad, man.
Yeah.
And I used to struggle with anger a lot, especially when I got sober. I was very angry. I was getting in fights after I got sober. And shit.
Comedian Chappelle Lacey talks about that a lot.
What?
Dealing with his anger and like
away
from his anger and stuff like that.
It's this thing, like you have to give yourself permission to feel other feelings. Because like I grew up in a household where like my dad had like 2 modes, you know, is like he was angry or he was making up for some shit when he was angry. You know, like he used to take me to McDonald's in the morning after he'd like pop off some crazy shit the night before, and then he'd take me to McDonald's.
Did he drink?
He did. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And he was very unpredictable. And that's the scariest shit, is it wasn't like the abuse or whatever. It was that I didn't know. I didn't know when I got off the bus. We had a long driveway, and I never knew which dad was going to be there, you know. And I think about it now because, like I said, he died when I was 12, and like it might have been a good thing for me because it was pretty hairy.
How did he pass?
Mesothelioma, so it was like asbestos from Vietnam.
Wow.
He was a fighter pilot in Vietnam. He was in the backseat of the F-4s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was more than just alcohol.
Yeah, he was over there. He wanted to fight commies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't?
I know, right? Damn commies. Whatever happened to them? Jeez.
I mean, at some point, I think you do have to learn to forgive yourself for your actions and stuff like that. Like, I know it took me I was a shit teenager.
Yeah, I can see that in you.
I was definitely a shit teenager, and I started comedy pretty young. I started about 19 or 20, and I was, drugs, legal trouble, doing fucking stupid shit. And when I got into comedy, it was like, for me, it was something positive to focus on. Yeah. And I put all my attention on that.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, that really, like, when I started getting into comedy and taking it seriously, I really never got in trouble again for me. Like, it was like...
Yeah.
I can't say I never did drugs again, but I haven't done them in a very long time.
Do you think comedy filled the hole that drugs were?
Like, gave me something to... Probably, I think maybe it was just a positive outlet. It got me out of some bad situations and circles and gave me just something positive to focus on.
So it's almost like it switched up your lifestyle.
Yes.
Because you began living the lifestyle of a stand-up comedian. How long have you been doing it?
I've been in this industry probably about 25 years.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it wasn't until, even through that, I started about 20. I'm 44 now. I've owned this club for 6 years, and I've been here a long time, right? So, but it wasn't until, even a few years after, maybe a couple years after owning the club, where I could just stop as a parent, as a single dad, as a business owner, and self-reflect and go, because I would always judge myself. I'd always carry the weight of the places I burglared or the people I harmed. And I would carry that, and I would put that onto my character today. But it wasn't until just a few years ago even that I was able to stop and go, I'm not that person anymore.
Yeah. I've worked really hard in therapy to get to a spot like that. I really like my therapist. They're dope, and I'm lucky. But there are moments... And it's the weirdest thing too, because I'll see it's the weirdest, most random stuff. Like, especially because I still live in the town that I was in when I was drinking and using. I don't know. Are you from Kansas City? Okay, so
yeah, but I've had apartments in Seattle and New York and LA and stuff.
So when I'm in Olympia and I drive down the streets, I have that part in my act where I talk about how sadness can transcend time and space. And it's weird because I moved to a different space in my town. I'm driving there, and I'll be sitting there, and I'll be like, I remember when that was a da-da-da, and now it's a da-da-da. But back when it was a da-da-da, I robbed that place, and it's weird because
I know that.
Yeah,
I know that feeling. I grew up right across the street from here in Overland Park, Kansas.
Okay.
When I was 18, I left.
Yeah.
I never wanted to move back to Overland Park, Kansas.
Yeah.
Life. Cut to a couple years ago, I needed to be closer to the club.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a good school district.
Yeah.
I end up back in Overland Park, right?
Yeah.
And all of my teenage shit came out.
Yeah,
the places I gas and go'd at. The places my friends got in trouble because they were gassing and go with me. Just all of it came out. And so the first couple months was it was just digging it up of you were a real piece of shit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know that feeling,
But to your, it's I know that I'm not a piece of shit, but I sure did some shitty things as a kid.
Well, a lot of what's going to dictate what I feel about my past is whatever my current situation is. We were, heartbreak's inherent when you're in this comedy world. We were talking, we're not going to go into details, but I was telling you about some heartbreak before the show.
Just canceled gigs and stuff.
Yeah, canceled gigs. And it's hard not to spiral and think, well, they canceled the gig because I'm not funny enough. I'm not funny enough because I don't care enough. I don't care enough because I never learned how to care, and I never learned how to care because nobody cared about me, and I don't think anybody cares about me. And then you're in a hotel room by yourself after your canceled gig.
Okay, on this topic of conversation about it is a weird thing, and I'll do workshops and I talk to young comedians, and building the community here in Kansas City is something that is important to me. But one of the first things I try to do is talk everybody out of wanting to do stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And I
quit.
Just why are
Don't
you here?
start or quit.
Just go. But I explained to them, it's when you're in a band,
Yeah.
You're playing with your friends. Everybody has their own part. You travel together. You perform together. You write songs
Part of a
together.
team.
You're part of a team. You are in comedy. You are your own team. And until you get to a certain level, you perform by yourself. You travel by yourself. You're your own booking agent. You're your own writer. All of it. You're your own roommate, like on the road. And there is not that support directly around you all the time.
No.
So you have to be able to, what you were talking about, you have to be able to learn how to take, accept, and brush off rejection.
Yeah. After this show tonight, I'm going to go back to my room. I am going to get my headphones, and I'm going to go work out. That is the last thing in the world I want to do, is work out.
But you're going to do it?
I'm going to do it because I know it'll make me feel better. And then I'm going to wake up and I'm going to drive to Tulsa by myself tomorrow. And I'm going to hang out with my friend Paula, who helped me get sober in Olympia, and now she lives in Tulsa.
Okay.
And we're going to hang out in Tulsa. And there's not a lot to do in Tulsa, but that's okay. And I don't know. To your point, though, with younger comedians, and I hate it's because it's such a trope. It's like kind of like, be careful what you wish for. Because here's the thing. Like, I think you'll appreciate this. I cannot see myself like quitting stand-up. Like, I love it too much. But there are plenty of times where I wish that I never started, and there's no.
Really?
Yeah. There's
You're like, I can never
wish.
quit, but I wish I never got here.
There's times where I wish that I never started. Yeah. I wonder, like, what else could I gotten into?
WWE, man.
Yeah. Like, there's moments where it's like, I don't know. It's a silly thought because it's not realistic. I'm just like, it's just these ideas that float across my mind.
What do you want to be? What would you do?
I love this. Do you know Emmett Montgomery out of Seattle?
I
You ever work
do
with
know
him?
Emmett Montgomery.
He was on Last Comic Standing, but only for like 5 seconds.
I know Emmett.
He's great. Yeah, he's good friends with Derek. One time I was on the toilet and I was talking to Emmett. I don't know why I needed to tell you I was on the toilet.
It makes it that much more meaningful.
I was on the toilet and I was bummed out because I felt like I'm from Olympia, Washington, and so I was doing comedy in Seattle and Portland mostly when I started out, and I was like, they don't like me there. They're all mad at me. I always think people are mad at me when really it's like people are just doing their own thing. It's like I've learned that. I've gotten better at that. It's not personal, they're just doing their thing. But I'm on the toilet and I was like complaining to Emmett, and I'm like, sometimes I wish that I never started comedy and I just got into like flying kites or something, and now I can't fly kites. All I do is comedy. And Emmett's like, you can get a kite. And I was like, son of a bitch, he's right. And I hung up the phone, and I go on Amazon, and I didn't know how to use Amazon then, but I could send screenshots to my wife, and I found a kite, and I bought a kite.
You flew it.
And I still fly kites. I got 4 of them.
Really?
Stunt kites. Hell yeah. I tear it up with my kites, man.
So is that one of your hobbies?
Yeah.
Kites?
Magnet fishing.
Dude, what do you think was, outside of the being canceled, what's one of your most defeating, or just like one of those just moments in comedy?
Comedy gut punch?
Yeah, like a comedy gut punch, or what should be.
God, it's so hard to narrow it down. Really that cancellation that I was telling you about, that one was brutal. That was brutal. And then also, obviously, COVID. So I had a huge West Coast tour. So I've been doing comedy full time since late 2021 or whatever. I was going to start doing comedy full time in late 2019, and I had a West Coast tour and an album recording that I crowdfunded, and it was ready to go. And then that shit exploded. I went back to my old job, which was working at a homeless shelter. I was a violence prevention specialist, but my best friend / boss / coworker, his wife got breast cancer, and he couldn't work at the shelter because she was on chemo. And that COVID shit would have just killed her, right? And so like it was just me, and all of a sudden I was like a supervisor at this shelter. And like the shit with COVID, right, when it started, is like people were calling or texting me and canceling shows, and it's like, oh shit, this COVID shit's real. They're canceling this shit. And then there was a moment where
you crowdfunded.
Yeah, I was ready to go
to set up the tour,
and this West Coast tour is going off.
Had you already spent the money setting up the special?
No. I didn't lose money. I was able.
The crowdfunded money?
Yeah, we were able just to send that back to the folks.
It was still there.
Yeah, and what happened is that eventually, you'll remember this, like people were calling and canceling stuff, but eventually they stopped calling to cancel stuff because you knew it wasn't happening. You don't got to tell me the show's canceled. I know the show's canceled. And then I'm sitting there, and so I got like my Google Calendar and my notifications, and I'd just be cleaning up vomit or piss or shit, and it'd be like, ba-ding! Oh, Santa Cruz. Nice. That would have been nice. It's like, son of a bitch, man. That shit broke my heart, man.
I had a moment, like, because
I want to know what's your dude. You got to tell me your crusher. I know you got one.
I think one of the things that stands out the most, and honestly, I didn't take it as a crusher because I knew I wasn't in the wrong, but it was definitely like what a piece of shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like I definitely had the moments of like, well, we can pay you what we agreed, or we can bring you back to do it again. Like, oh well, let's just pay me and I'll never come back.
Yeah.
Like, but this was because it was a different time. There wasn't social media in place. It was like you had to go out. You had to like showcase and network and introduce yourself.
Yeah.
So I drive to St. Louis to the Funny Bone at the time. I think they're still there. And I drive out there to set up a guest spot. And for the following week, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, because that's what you do. I want to go out.
Yeah.
I'm going to put myself in front of them.
Yeah.
They give me the guest spot. I come back the next week, and they bump me.
For who?
Nobody. They just bumped me. And I said, I drove here from Kansas City for this.
And I set it up last week.
I said, I came out last week to set this up. And I drove, he said, you drove 4 hours for a guest spot? That's pathetic. And that was the
club owner said
that's whoever the fuck was running the club is what he said to a comic.
Damn.
And that was a long drive home, but I also know it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, that guy's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Whoever that is doesn't deserve to be in comedy.
Here's a question for you, and I'm fascinated by this shit. We were talking a little bit before the show. What was your biggest gut punch as like a club owner / producer / promoter?
Whoa.
Like, what was the worst?
Well, we opened mid-19.
Oh, shit.
So, like...
Same as mine.
And I had my back against the wall anyways.
Yeah,
You know, like, and that was a whole thing within itself. Just the entire thing was a nightmare.
Yeah.
You know, but then we get shut down, like, right when we get our debts paid off. I remember we had just paid off the last of this suffocating debt, you know, and I was like, okay, we didn't comp anything for since we had opened, and we're putting value back into tickets. This stuff is paid off. There's people in the showroom.
It's a nice club. I gotta say, it looks good out there.
Thank you.
The showroom's pretty. I like the way the seats are set up.
Thank you.
Good vibe.
And then we just get shut down.
Yeah, dude.
You know, and I was like, I was able to tell myself, hey, if I don't make it from here, it's not because of me. I did everything I could, and I put legs under this thing when they had none.
Yeah.
From 3 feet underground to where it was like I did it, and then we just but I don't know. It was interesting because we had to reopen. We were only shut down a couple months.
That's sick.
So I had to figure out not only. I mean, I've hardly run a club at all. Now I have to figure out how to reopen a club in the middle of a pandemic. And then I have club owners who have been open 30 years calling me up like, how are you doing it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, so now like the industry is calling me.
Yeah, it was a mess, man. It was funny watching people on the West Coast were like moving to the Midwest and to the South because like there was still comedy happening. And I think, you know, and this pissed me off too, is because I was working at a homeless shelter, right? And so like I got vaccinated, like really, I was like group 1A or whatever. And like, I know people feel a certain way about the vaccine. I just want anybody listening to this and everybody, you know, like, I don't give a shit what people think about COVID anymore. Like, I'm fucking done arguing with motherfuckers over that shit. Like, I was so excited to get vaccinated because I was thinking about doing comedy again. Like, I was so pumped, you know? But then,
I got my vaccination because I thought it was the responsible thing to do.
yeah.
And as I guess as a person and as a business owner in an operating community of live entertainment.
Yeah, I got it because I was working at a homeless shelter and I was in group like 1B. So I like got mine. Like when I got my vaccination, it was mostly ICU nurses getting their second shot. That was who was at my vaccination site. Like I was the only one at my vaccination site not wearing scrubs because that shit came through our shelter. And like I said, I don't care what people thought, but I saw COVID happen, man. I lost friends to that shit. People that helped me get sober died from that shit. And like, it just is what it is. But it was, because I was at the shelter and I had gotten the shot, it would have looked really bad if I started going around big crowds immediately. And like, I got an offer to feature at a weekend at Nate Jackson's club and I was so excited. But I said yes initially, and I was like, oh no, like, the minute I talk about this on social media, like people are gonna flip out, because people don't get it, man. They don't get that this isn't some shit that I do. It's some shit that I am, and like, I was so ready to get back out there, but I wound up waiting like another few months before I got after it.
Okay, so we talk about Comedy Gut Punch. Do you work our way to do you remember your first viral video and how the feeling you had during
it was that semi-truck video.
Semi-truck.
Of me pretending to be a semi-truck fucking my wife. And I was at Legoland with my family, and I started getting all these messages of people being like, dude, I just saw this video. And it was weird because it wasn't even on my page. It was on the Humboldt Jungle in Chicago. Are you up on them at all?
It wasn't on your personal page?
No.
Did you get followings from it?
I did, though.
Okay.
Well, it was mostly like a confidence thing because I was like,
sure.
you know, like.
Were you doing the refresh game? Watching it like every.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude, I was so bad. And reading every comment.
You were at Disneyland?
No, I was in the line. I was in Legoland.
Legoland.
Yeah, but you know what's funny is that my wife was like
with
into
the family,
it too.
You're like, no, I'm blowing up.
I was still present in their lives, but I was in another place because I was like,
I'm putting my own Lego blocks together.
And then I had the next one that blew up was just the belly tattoo video, a good version of that where I show off my belly tattoo that says "Let's Dance." And then my first thing, you know what's crazy? I love this. I didn't do this joke tonight, but the first thing that blew up on Instagram is this joke about when I was homeless and I let a guy blow me when I was homeless. And I'm like, I'm a straight dude, but like I was like hard up, and like that blew up. And that shit was crazy because I started getting all these messages from like gay dudes. I was telling somebody that story out there. I had a guy message me one time. He was from like upstate New York somewhere. And this video, and then the joke is basically like I felt straighter after that, you know. I was like, there's a lot of people in this room that assume they're straight. I checked, you know. And this dude was like, Are you ever coming to upstate New York? And I was like, oh, it's a fan. Like he wants me to come to a show. And I was like, the
story's true though.
Oh yeah, this is a true story. Yeah. This guy messages me. He's like, by the way, the joke itself is a conflagration. Is that the right word?
I don't know.
Where you mix facts up. Do you know what I'm talking about? No, okay. It's like, it's true, but the truth is way sad. The joke, I give myself agency, and the actual event was really bad. But anyway.
But that's why you take the joke.
Yeah, it rules. But anyway, this guy messaged me from New York. He's like, are you coming up to upstate New York? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to do an upstate New York. And he's like, we should meet up because I'm secretly gay too. And I was like, I messaged him back. I was like, dude, I wish you nothing but luck. But just so you know, like, I'm actually like a straight dude. I'm married. And he's like, I'm like, it was just a joke, you know. And time in my life. And he goes, He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, I'm joking, too. Like, oh, no.
So we meet up in New York.
Yeah. He was, but I've gotten a lot of love from the Baird Meyer community. They're hella cool. 97% of them are fucking rad, and they've been very supportive. But there are some people. It makes me feel for the women folks in my life because dudes are just so aggressive online. Like I do get a lot of messages from dudes. So.
You have your second special coming up.
Yeah.
You're recording that, next week? So you will have just
10 days, 11 days. That story,
it will probably
Oregon.
have just come out or just be coming out. We can line that up probably. So it's probably just coming out. What's your special? Oh,
it's going to take a while.
It.
Yeah, I'm just recording it. Yeah. So my first comedy special is called Round Trip, and I'm really proud of it.
Where can people see that?
Everywhere. Amazon, iTunes. It's not on YouTube, but if you just go to my website, sammillercomedy.com, it's got the Round Trip stuff on there. You can find it. I'm on Stand Up Records out of Minneapolis.
That's great. Dan
Schlissel. I really like Dan. He's been really good to me. We have a good relationship because I don't have a lot of interest in like the business side of stuff, and he advocates for me. I have a hard time standing up for myself sometimes. I'm just way too happy to be here sometimes.
Do they represent you?
No, my friend Jess is helping me with manager stuff. She's also the co-owner booker at Comedy Bar in Seattle. We have a podcast together. She's a sweetheart. She's a good comic in her own right. She's doing better and better, starting to feature. She's been helping me with big picture manager stuff, and that's been good. She got me on, I'm going to be on Livewire, which is like this NPR show in Portland. Yeah, so I'll have an NPR credit, which is sick. So,
okay.
Yeah, and I've been on Bob and Tom. Like,
I wish Bob and Tom were syndicated here.
They're doing better. Okay, so their online stuff is getting better and better. Their YouTube, they're doing good.
I hope so because there's a lot of comics who really benefit and sell well because of their presence on that show. Yeah. But they just don't affect this market at all. At all. And so it kind of sucks.
Bob and Tom was like kind of my, it's funny, I'm not the only one. But if it comes down to it, people ask like what kind of like my breaks were. Bob and Tom and the Laugh Factory in Chicago. I got a big break there too. I had some shit go my way. Yeah. That and Savage Henry in you know about Savage Henry? Eureka, California.
No.
Yeah, it's the weirdest comedy club in the world. Remember
Savage Henry?
Savage Henry, and they have the Savage Henry Comedy Festival, and it's in the Redwoods.
Okay.
It's the weirdest comedy club, and it's like this super isolated comedy scene. These weird characters.
Oh my God.
Bunch of hippie outlaw motherfuckers. I love it, dude.
What was your first music concert?
Oh, geez. It's some punk show in Olympia.
Just
some rap show in Olympia or something.
Okay.
I don't even remember.
You went to a lot of underground music?
I was into a lot of weird shit.
What do you listen to now?
A lot of R&B, and I'm into a lot of different stuff. I've really been really into this Leon Thomas lately. He's like this R&B guy. He just did a Tiny Desk concert. I like him a lot.
I got into Teddy Swims.
Yeah, I've heard of Teddy Swims,
which is weird because I've never. I don't listen to a lot but something about him. And I haven't gotten into new music in a long time either.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first artists I was like, oh, I really enjoy what this guy's putting out.
I've been on who else have I really been on lately? I go all over the place. I've been doing a little bit of Nirvana while I'm working out.
Yeah,
which is fun.
I'm a grunge guy.
Yeah, and then another thing too that I've really enjoyed was like live Pink Floyd, like driving through the desert listening to live Pink Floyd.
It's awesome.
Because I drive a lot, and sometimes I'm like, you ever try to sometimes you can force a vibe.
I'm glad to know road comics are still a thing.
Oh yeah, dude, we're out there, man. It sucks. No, I'm happy. I
drove so much, and I mentioned I go into Seattle a lot.
Yeah,
there was this thing called a Tribble Run.
Oh yeah, Tribble, man. Yeah. I did some Tribble stuff. I was at the tail end of it.
Okay. So I worked my way there and back all the time through like Wyoming and Montana and Idaho, and fell in love with huckleberries.
Oh yeah, dude.
There's just things that you can pick up that you're not going to do flying, but obviously you want to get to the point where you're just flying out for the weekend and going home.
Dude, I don't know, man.
You like the grind. Eventually, and you'll get there. Sam, you're going to get there. Unless you just still are like, nope, tag them up. I'm driving.
there are moments if you do it right. So what do I got? How far is it to Tulsa tomorrow?
4 hours.
It's gonna be rough, but like there's moments.
If we didn't have such a busy weekend, I'd probably just go with you to Tulsa.
That'd be fun, actually. I'd love that. There are moments of like, I don't want to say like transcendence or something, but like, man, I found myself out there. Like sometimes I'll be looking out my windshield and the sun will hit some shit in a certain way. And it might even be a road I've been on before, but maybe and I leave early too. I leave at like 6 a.m. I'm all sober, no hangover, you know? And I'd be watching, you start driving and it's dark and the sun comes up and oh man, some of the stuff I've seen, like the red rocks, because you know, doing drugs the way I did it wasn't as crazy as people think. I was actually really isolated and I never really left my community because I didn't know if I'd be able to find what I needed to like get high or whatever. But man, I'll be driving through like Moab, red rocks, and the sun's coming up, and I've never seen rocks that color in my life.
Gorgeous.
And it's just like, oh my God, like I can't believe I'm out here and I can't believe this is my life, you know? Like,
Yeah, seeing the miles of purple trees driving through Oregon and stuff like
oh,
that.
yeah,
like,
dude.
But I'll tell you, man, I think I drove myself out. Like ice storms, like driving from like Omaha, Nebraska to LA.
Yeah,
and then to Portland. You're like, after a couple hours in the car, an hour and a half, I'm ready to get out. I'm like, I'm burnt out.
I'm telling on myself a little bit here, and like I think I have like some rose-colored glasses because we're also recording this after I just headlined the club or whatever, and so I'm probably like some of this is the comedy talking, but like it is getting older and it's getting harder, and there are occasionally I'll feel like trapped.
Dude, you're this close.
Yeah,
I promise.
I'm already like, it's if this is as good as it gets, like I can roll with this, man. And I feel like things are breaking my way. We'll see. You know, if you know anybody, let them know.
I will.
Yeah,
you're a person I would introduce to agents. Would say, good. Look at this guy.
Yeah, have a look at this guy.
I'll do it. I'll tell a couple agents to look at you.
If you do that, I will. I don't know. What do you like to eat?
I'm well fed, my friend.
Pick a meal. I'll take you out.
I just want to give back to this industry that's allowed me to be a part of it for so long.
You got a good club with a good vibe, and we were talking before the show a little bit. Like, there's good clubs. I know the same way we talk about people. Like, there's good people and bad people or whatever. I don't think it's bullshit. I don't think there's good clubs or bad clubs. There's just clubs that I vibe with, and there's clubs that I don't. I think there's
good clubs and really shitty club owners.
Yeah.
I know for a fact there's some really shitty club owners out there, man.
Yeah, for sure. But like, I don't know, man. Even those folks, man, I think most people are doing the best they can with what they got. Like, I feel bad for some old school comics, dude.
But there's really good, honest club owners as well.
I know we're running out of time. I want to tell you this story because you'll get a kick out of this. There is an old school comic in Olympia, right? And I'm not going to say his name because he's still kicking around a little bit.
Okay.
And I had just started headlining mostly bar gigs. The only club I was working was the Comedy Underground in Seattle. John Fox ran.
I loved that room.
Yeah,
I worked the downtown one. For a long time.
Pioneer Square. Yeah, it was beautiful. The big train.
You walk down.
Yeah, the big train on the stage. Yeah, with the mural.
Well, wait a minute. No, that was before. This one there was a bar upstairs.
Was there a sports bar? Yeah, they probably didn't have the train mural. Yeah, Swanee's upstairs.
Was it a train? Because then they moved to a second location. If you started in 2014, then it was the second club.
Okay.
Like, no, this was a
what was it? John Fox
stairway. John Fox owned it. Ron Reed ran it.
Like, I love Ron too. Yeah. Ron's been really good to me. He gave me good advice.
He was always so supportive, and he's a person who cares about comedy and cares about comics, and he's the kind of person that every club should have in their club.
Yeah, and John Fox too. He's old school, and he has his like detractors, and I get it. But also, John Fox has always paid me exactly what he's going to pay me when he says he's going to pay me, and I appreciate him as a human being. But anyway, there was this comic, and I was headlining these bar shows, and what he was doing was he was emailing these places that I was performing at, and he was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about booking Sam for a show. Have you seen him before? And they might be like, yeah, we've seen him. He's great. And he wouldn't say anything, right? But if they emailed him back, it'd be like, no, we haven't, but we've heard good things. He would email him back and he'd be like, hey, I usually wouldn't do this, but I've been emailing other places about Sam, and I found out some pretty disturbing stuff.
Oh, my God.
He says he can do comedy, and he says he can do this amount of time, but he can't. He's a fraud, you know. And he goes, usually I wouldn't do this, but I'm actually available that night. You can book me instead.
And he gets work.
No, he didn't. It didn't work.
Okay.
It didn't work. And it was funny because
I'm glad people saw through that.
Yeah, but this is the funniest thing is, so like I found out he was doing this. Like I saw screenshots and everything.
Wow.
And I called, like he blocked me on social media at that point because we had some beef about some other stuff. And I called this dude and I was like, hey man, you got to stop doing this. He's like, doing what? I didn't do anything. And I was like, dude, I know what you're doing. Don't lie to me. And he was like, okay, well, maybe I did, but you shouldn't be headlining. You've only been doing comedy 3 years, you know, and you're not ready. And I'm like, dude, this is what I got. And what you think had nothing to do with it. And I told him, I was like, if you don't stop doing this shit, dude, I'm just going to go public and I'm going to post these screenshots. And I'm like, it's going to make you look really bad. And he's like, it's going to make you look really bad too. Would you do that to your career? And I was like, dude, I used to smoke meth and fight cops. Like, I don't give a fuck, dude. I'll do that shit right now. Yeah. And I didn't. He was like, fine, I'll stop. And then that was that, man. He stopped. But some snake shit, dude.
That is some snake shit. That is like, and I definitely learned that, like, you can't be, and if I had really almost any advice to give to a younger comedian, it would be don't be in a race with anybody else's career.
Yeah.
Like it's the quickest way
you
to burn out and be bitter and jaded and be somebody who you don't like and other people don't like. Be happy for the people. Hopefully you're friends with the comics around you.
Yeah.
And be happy for your friend's success.
I forgave that dude too.
Sierra, you didn't give me your like time. Okay.
I just want to say too that I forgave that dude, and I don't know if I should have or not, but I did because I was telling.
It helps you to move on.
Well, these old school dudes too is like people probably did that to him. Like the industry wasn't like that, and social media has changed some stuff for the better. Is like these people get found out now and they stop, but you're right about new comics, man. Like just fucking.
Do you pay attention to you? Move forward.
Work hard. Have fun. Get a therapist.
Grow your own. Sam, I want you to come back.
I will come back.
I want you to I always want you to have a home in Kansas City. Where can people find you online?
You are my home in Kansas City. My home online is sammillercomedy.com.
Okay.
That's .com if you're not familiar with the internet. It's not .com. Not anymore.
Again, thank you guys. Follow, again, the Comedy Club, KC. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube. Please subscribe on YouTube, all that stuff. We'll see you next week. Bye.